Joining me now is House Majority Whip Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana. Are you worried about the fallout for American consumers and businesses here that use steel and aluminum in terms of the growing trade spat that these steel and aluminum tariffs seem to have triggered?
Well, first of all, I think it's important that President Trump is finally standing up for America. And when you look at trade practices around the world, everybody around the world knows that China's been dumping and that China goes around and violates the rules of trade or agreements. So the fact that he's actually saying we're not going to take this anymore, I think that's a good sign. Ultimately, you don't want to see a trade war, but if you see that the president is standing up for our country, I think that's going to help us in other trade deals. And look, we don't have enough trade deals with Asian countries or with European countries. So hopefully this helps as the president goes to expand our trade agreements around the world.
But what are you hearing from your constituents, though? It's not the fact that the president's his policy. I mean, he ran on this, so we know where he stands on trade, and he dislikes the trade deficit. However, it's how he's doing it that many people are concerned about. For a business that it used rolled steel that they sourced from overseas, all of a sudden, boom, my cost went up, and I don't really know. Maybe I'm not going to source it from this location. So, what are you hearing from your constituents about how this might disrupt business?
Well, most of what I hear from my constituents around Southeast Louisiana is that they're really excited that the economy is doing well for once. You know, we went through 8 years where growth was less than 2% every single quarter, and people felt it. I mean, stagnant wages, people's wages weren't going up. Now they're seeing more money in their paycheck. They're seeing their company hiring more people. So, you know, this, I think we're going to get through the repercussions of the president saying, okay, we're going to stand up for America again. And I think you've already seen China recognizing, okay, we can't take advantage of the United States anymore. So other countries, I think, will follow suit as well.
But you've got retaliatory tariffs that are set to kick in from Canada, just to name one ally. I think July the 1st. There's the issue with Mexico, and then over in Europe, relatively small dollar amounts. But I don't want to dismiss the fact that it could hurt individual businesses in this country potentially, and it makes people in this country who run businesses or even some consumers nervous.
Yeah, you know, and again, you don't want to see a trade war, and some countries have been making threats, and some have backed away from those threats. Let's continue to work through, and the president provided a lot of exemptions to countries around the world that initially thought they were going to get hit with tariffs themselves. Hopefully we get a policy where you have the president saying we're not going to allow a country to go around the rules, but everybody else, let's get better agreements.
But there is pushback on Capitol Hill from some members of your own party. You've got Tennessee Senator Bob Corker is calling for legislation to require a congressional vote on future tariffs involving national security. Again, that was the steel and aluminum tariff. Do you think Congress should step in here?
Well, that was a case where Congress gave the discretion to the president.
Right.
What we want to do is be able to continue to see trade deals get signed. I'm encouraged that the president is negotiating with Mexico and Canada, try to get a better NAFTA deal. The president was clear during the campaign, as you pointed out, that he didn't like NAFTA. He said he was going to get out of NAFTA, but he hasn't. He's actually been engaging in negotiations with Canada and with Mexico. And let's see him negotiate with other countries, too. I think it would be helpful for us to go and get trade deals. Look, President Obama did not get trade deals with those European countries.
You have to admit, Congressman, this comes at a tricky time because you've got coming up on the midterms. Have people quietly said to you, okay, we need to get tough on trade, but could you have waited until after November, for Pete's sake?
Well, it's just seeing the economy continue to take off. The economy is moving for the first time in 10 years, really. We don't want to see anything get in the way of that. But the president's been clear on the other side of this that he was going to get tougher and stand up for America, and he's doing that. And I think ultimately the countries that have been taking advantage of us are taking notice and are recognizing they're not going to be able to get away with it.
There's a lot on the president's plate. He's going to the G7 summit in Quebec this weekend. Next week, President Trump and Kim Jong-un are set to meet in Singapore. It's 1 week from today. The historic sit-down slated for 9 a.m. local time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern time on June the 11th. President Trump says that the goal is denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. What would a successful summit look like to you, in your mind?
Well, I think, first of all, having a relationship where the two sit, you never had that for years, where he was just going off and continuing to build this nuclear program completely unchecked. The fact that the president is saying we want denuclearization, also we want it to be verifiable, something that we can go and check on, not like even in the Iran deal, where Iran could self-verify some of the things that they were doing. That's not an acceptable solution. So the fact that he's standing up and saying we want North and South Korea to get a relationship, and now you see that, you actually see the two of them talking, and then you have a possibility of denuclearization. I don't think he has to walk away with all of the nukes in a cargo plane, but let's at least see some movement towards denuclearization and a way for us to verify that. And
I want to get your take on what the future holds for leadership in the House of Representatives. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and yourself are said to be front runners to succeed House Speaker Paul Ryan when he steps down in January. You've said that you won't run against McCarthy, but as it stands now, do you think he has enough votes to win outright? And there are other people who have kind of are raising their hand a little bit in terms of being interested in the leadership role.
Well, I think Kevin's in a really good spot to become the next speaker, but the thing that we're most concerned about is holding the majority, because the only announced candidate for Speaker of the House is Nancy Pelosi. She's publicly said she will run for Speaker again if they get the majority, and they're focused on doing it. They're raising millions of dollars to get there. We're not going to let that happen, but we need to stay focused on our primary objective, and that is holding the House so that you don't see an unwinding of the success we have. Pelosi said she wants to raise taxes to undo the tax cuts that we worked with President Trump to get. So stay focused on the main objective.
Those $2,000 bonuses were crumbs, pathetic, putting the companies putting the schmooze on.
She insulted the companies. She insulted the workers who appreciate the fact that they're getting $1,000 more maybe in a bonus, and the fact that they're getting maybe $50 or more in their paycheck is a big deal to a lot of those workers.
Really quickly, though, one issue that does divide Republicans in the House that you need to get on the same page with, and that is immigration. I know there's a 2-hour closed-door meeting on Thursday where all House Republicans are going to discuss that issue. That goes into who that ends up being the leader. What can you tell me about where you stand on that?
Well, I'm a supporter of the Goodlatte-McCall bill, which addresses all of the big problems we're trying to deal with. It funds the ball, gives the president the $25 billion he needs. It does interior border security, closes loopholes, ends chain migration, ends this visa lottery program, and solves the DACA problem. I think if you look at all of those different fronts, amongst Republicans, we have agreement on every single one of those except DACA. And within DACA, we all want to solve the problem. We just approach it in different ways. So if that's where we are, let's come together and try to figure out that last piece and get a plan that we can move forward. That's what we're working on.
Can you quickly put some odds on whether that plan actually comes together with the Republicans?
It's possible to do, but it's been the most complicated thing we faced. You know, passing a repeal or replace of Obamacare was not easy. We did it by one vote. Right. The immigration is a little more complicated, but it's solvable, and we're going to work to try to get there.
Steve Scalise, great to see you, Congressman.
Great to be with you.
You look very well.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure.